All right, so welcome to the next video. This one is going to be on passing arrays as arguments. So arrays can be passed as arguments to a method just like anything else, and that's going to be useful because now I won't have to be commenting out these these lines I just wrote every time I want to work on something that's slightly new. So let's write some method that takes care of them. So public static. Let's go ahead and create a method that does something I wanted to do. Not sure what I want to return yet. Let's go with double average, and this will compute the average of the. And this one was going to compute the average of this array that I pass in. So how do I pass an array? Well, if I want to say I want to compute the average of an array of doubles, well, how would I pass in a single double? I'd say double num, right? And that's what I'd do. Let's go ahead and return double dot negative infinity. Right now, I always like to make it sure that my code always compiles, so I'm just putting in a nonsense value there. Or even better yet, I can put in double nan, not a number. Okay, so that's how we pass. So average double number. That's how I'd pass in a single number. So how would I pass in an array of doubles? Right? That's a single double. How do I pass in an array of doubles? Well, it's not a trick question. I just simply make that an array of doubles, and we can call it array, or we can call it nums. I'll call it nums because that's all of our numbers that we want to create an array of. So let's go ahead and let me add a comment to remember what this is, although it should be self-explanatory. Returns the average of the numbers in the array. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a couple things. So, when we need to compute the average of a bunch of numbers, right? Say we want to compute the average of say something like I'll use integers here for simplicity's sake, 3, 5, 7. Right? What do? We add up 3, 5, and 7, and then we divide by 3 because they were 3 numbers. If there were 4 numbers, we'd add up the 4 numbers and divide by 4. If there were 5, we'd add up 5 numbers and divide by 12. If there were 20 numbers, we'd add up all 20 and divide by 20, so on and so forth. So it's the sum of, so the average of the numbers is the sum of all numbers divided by the number of numbers we just did. So that sounds actually like the perfect opportunity to write a second method if we wanted to. So let's work on that first part. Public static double sum of a, because that seems like a common thing we might do. Double nums. So we're going to compute the sum of a bunch of numbers. So returns the sum of a bunch of doubles. Okay? So return double dot man. I didn't even notice that I put a negative sign up there. Doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and compute the sum. So what we need to do is use a for loop to iterate over all the numbers. First thing we're going to do is going to create a variable called sum. Right, we can have a method named sum and a double named sum, so that can get a bit confusing. So maybe we call it sum of nums. Sum of nums is equal to 0. When we're doing a running sum, we'll start at 0. So 4. And the way we go through an array, if you remember, is that we are going to iterate through it just like we would iterate through a string. So we'd start I is equal to 0. Basically, we want to go through each of the indices, right? If there's 12 numbers, we want to go through indices 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through indices 11. Okay, so we'd go through I starts at 0. I is less than nums, which is the array, dot length. Now, dot length here is a parameter. It's a attribute of the array, so as we'll learn, it doesn't have parentheses. So right now, you have to know that arrays don't have parentheses for their length, but strings do have parentheses for the length. Plus. So what values are I? It's 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then all the way up to nums dot length minus 1, but it doesn't include nums. Okay, so we go ahead and we sum up all that stuff. So how do we sum all these things? So I is going to be 0, then it's going to be 1, then it's going to be 2. So sum of nums is equal to, we get the ith number. Now this isn't enough, of course. Sum of nums, this would, so say we passed in, so let's see, I made a mistake here. What if I pass in the values over here? 1.0, 1.5, and 0, and 9, let's go with 9.0. Say I passed it in. What's this going to do? It's going to set, this sums of nums is 0. Then it's going to go through and set I is equal to 0. Nums I, so num 0, the 0th item in here is going to get stored in sum of nums. So sum of nums would become 1.0. Then when I is equal to 1, which is the next step, 1.5 would get stored in sums of nums. Wouldn't add it, right? I didn't put a plus equal there. Then 9.0 would get stored in there. And then we'd return not a number anyway because we didn't replace it with some nums. So we just do a plus equal to check it on, and that should return the sum. So let's go ahead and test that out. So, let's create a array in an array of doubles, and we're going to do it the second way we know how to do array. So array is equal to 1.0, 2.0, 30, 30, 25, 4, right? And those integers will get converted to doubles. This is how you create an array so just by declaring it, if you already know what the values are and how long it's going to be. So let's go ahead and system.out.println sum of array. So let's go ahead and compile this. And it says their sum is 62. Let's double check that with a value we do know. That should be 3.0. Okay. Now, while I could pass in an int to a method that took in a double, I can't pass in an integer array to a method that's expecting a double array. That just doesn't work. It's because it's saying I'm expecting a bunch of doubles and you're passing me a bunch of ints. I can't convert them all. I guess it's too lazy or something, but that just won't work. So, got to do that. 2.3, 2.2, right? So now, run it, 6.5. Okay, that's their sum. So now how do I compute the the average of these things? Well, it would be the int double sum, right? So remember, this is the sum divided by the number of things we're adding up. So say nums.length, which is the number of things we're adding up. So, of course, I don't have a sum variable. So sum of nums divided by nums.length. So now let's look at the average of these things. 1.625. Let's go ahead and use something that maybe we'll know the value off the top of our head. 3.0. 2.0. That makes sense, right? Then now if we go to 1, or subtract the 3, this should be 1.5. All right, so we'll continue on in the next video.